Hi everybody, I hope that I am currently alive. I was in full flow and I got cut off by lovely Facebook or Firefox or I don't know, the system at large. So I do apologise. I've decided rather than to have two half videos floating around to try and just start again and get through it from the beginning so that people who see this video later will be able to see the whole idea. So I apologize if you were following this and we got cut off mid-flow. That the first bit you will have heard again, so do be patient. So today we're talking about getting our preschoolers entertained and educated. We've all been doing such a fantastic job, and it's really hard to keep going. We were hoping it was a short tunnel, but every time we think we're getting towards the light, the tunnel is suddenly longer. It's a bit like a nightmare, isn't it? But anyway, so the result of that is if you've got preschoolers at home, it's really hard to continue to constructively educate and entertain. And you may have started off doing such a brilliant job, and I'm sure you are, but you're sort of feeling that you're running out of ideas. So today I want to talk about just 4 different areas. One is using anticipation to build your day and sort of make that structure to your day. Secondly, let's think about the great stuff we've already done and how to build on that. And then and also to work with what we've got rather than constantly thinking I don't have the equipment, do I have to buy more stuff, etc. Then thinking a little bit about the early years foundation stage curriculum, what the emphasis on it is, and how we can at home sort of plug into that without worrying too much about what the kids are not getting. So how can we build on it from our side, our angle on it? And also the importance of play and how we can play better with our children to maximize their, what they can get out of play. So some of this is purely my experience as a mum. Some of this comes from my time when I worked in a preschool and I was a key worker. And some of this comes from the parenting courses from Care for the Family that we facilitate at Salway Church. If you're in our neighbourhood and in the future would like to join one of our courses, we have a whole range. Do like or follow our Facebook page. And then when life is something more like normal and we can offer courses again, you will see our advertising. And I would also say, as I always do, before I go any further, do look at the Care for the Family website. They have support for people who are co-parenting together, for couples, for people suffering loss and bereavement, and also for every kind of parent, no matter what your circumstances. So do look at that. So firstly, using anticipation to build our day and sort of create a structure. Everybody said it, it's wherever you look for help with children in the lockdown, a routine is really helpful. So it's obvious and everyone's saying it, and we probably started with a routine, but as time goes on, we're sort of getting a bit looser, aren't we? But it is really helpful. It's helpful to children to have a routine. You may be finding as time goes on that your child is becoming frustrated or fretful, tearful, or clingy. This could be a sign that they are missing that structure and routine. So just think about, have you eased off on your routine? And is that linked? Does that coincide with the behavior that you're seeing. There's a saying that is all behavior is communication. And that could be true of your child, that they're feeling frustrated or insecure in some way. So just think about putting your routine in place and not just expect them to know. They will build up a pattern if you do the same things in the same order every day. But talk to them about what we're going to do today, maybe over breakfast. We're going to get dressed. We're going to play outside for a bit. And then we're going to make such and such for lunch. After we've done our tidying up, we'll go for our walk and we'll pop that thing through Granny's door. So they kind of know where they are. They know when they're tidying up what comes next. And you can remind them of that as you're going through what is coming next. So building up that anticipation so that they know the routine. Secondly, I would say that having that structure means that you're not always frantic about what I'm going to do to entertain. You've got a pocket or an element that is, this is where we're doing stuff together. But at other times, this is when I'm doing housework or we're doing housework. So that you're not worried the whole day or feeling guilty the whole day that you're not doing stuff with them. You know when your time to do stuff with them is and when time to do other stuff is. So it gives you a break. And also when you are preparing to go out or to do things, you can ask questions. What do you think we'll see on our walk today? And point things out to them. Let them, they won't just automatically find the details of the world around them. You might need to help them find the ants. You know, if you see the ants, point it out, spend time looking. What colour is the sky today? Gosh, that's amazing colour. And then the next day you can say, what colour do you think the sky will be today? Do you think the ants will still be there? And so it gives them things to look forward to discovering. So just building that anticipation by asking them questions, that will just help them to find things in the day that are interesting. Sometimes people say, oh, they don't want to go out. Well, I would suggest that as part of your finding that structure and having that routine is just to tell them, you know, after lunch, we're going to go out. When you've had lunch and cleared away, say, now it's time to go out, rather than say, do you want to go out and put that thing through Granny's door? Because they probably may not feel like it. So just start building that. Now it's time to do this. Now it's time to do that. So that you don't give them the opt-in, opt-out, because you end up having a very floppy day and that makes them feel insecure. So it's a lose-lose situation. So that's anticipation and building up the day. Next, let's think about building up on what you've already done. I'm sure you found loads of creative ideas to do with your kids, loads of brilliant things that you've been doing. And as adults, we think, oh, I've done that now, or what else can I do? But the truth is, you really know from your children already that they like to repeat actions. They like to do things over and over again. So things that they've loved or things that went well, repeat them. You can repeat them a good number of times, not too often, maybe once a week, but you can. So you might want to decide that Thursday is cookie making day because we love it and we love eating them. So do that. Just repeat ideas. It's really great for our children as scientists to know that when I do something, when I do the same thing, I get the same outcome. It's building up their understanding of the world. But then you might also want to ask some questions. What do you think would happen if, so say cookie day, you might want to say, we put Smarties in the cookies, we put Rice Krispies in the cookies, and we put currants in the cookies. You might want to ask them what they think will happen to the chocolate chips or whatever it is. And you might want to rate that plate, decide which one you like best. Oh, I think I like this better than currants. So you might want to think about, what can I do to make it different? So when you're asking a question, I would ask a question, your child guesses, and you guess, and then say, well, let's see. Try and ask questions you don't know the answer to, because it's really deadening to have somebody ask you a question because they know the answer and they're going to make it a teachable moment. It's much better to discover together, to find out together, to explore together. And that's bonding. That's something that you will treasure for always, because it's built your relationship. So don't always try to be teacher, although you are in charge as the parent. Another thing, building on what you've got. If whatever you've got at home, your children will use it. So say you've got a sandbox in the garden, they've got their buckets and spades in there. Well, great, they love playing in the sandbox, but this week I'm going to take out the buckets and spades and put in fir cones or pots and pans or diggers, so you can load up the diggers and make a building site. So think about what you've got and swap in unexpected equipment or combinations and let them use the same things differently. Equally with Play-Doh, you can add in scissors. We get stuck with the cookie cutters, don't we, and the rolling pins, but add in scissors. Add in cupcake cases is another great thing. Or things that you can stick in to sort of make sort of sculptures, like pipe cleaners or other things. You may want to make Play-Doh with different textures in it. So, for example, glitter or different aromas added. You can Google loads of interesting stuff that you can put into Play-Doh, but cinnamon is a good thing, or lemon essence or lavender essence, all kinds of things to make it a different experience. Use the regular toys that you've got in your home and ask questions. Say they're playing with the bricks. What would happen if we tried to pile all the bricks on top of each other? Or, if you're playing in water, what will happen if we put in a little bit of bubble bath and use the whisk? All kinds of things. You just ask a question, and again, ask a question they don't know. With water, you might want to get you might notice what they're doing. So noticing what they're doing is a really good thing. If they keep pushing things down into the water and it keeps bobbing up, then find a couple of other things and see what floats and what sinks, and make a collection of floaters and a collection of sinkers. You might want to explore, can you make a floater sink? Once you get going, there's all kinds of things you can do. So notice what they're doing, use the toys you've got, ask open questions and discover the answers together. And I would say share ideas with friends, look at what other people are doing and copy. Very few educators have a completely original idea. We all share and borrow one another's. So I was just saying last time when I was cut off, so a slight trepidation I'll mention again. Say you've got a book, I just pulled this one off the bookcase, and your child is obsessed with reading and reading and reading the same thing, because that's how kids roll. You might want to start with the first page. They'll know it off by heart. Here is the page where they're talking together. He's saying something different to the little boy today. What is he saying today? What adventure will that lead that character on? So with slightly older children, probably 3, 4 years old and upwards, I'm sure they can use their imagination to create whole new stories about their favourite characters. So that's build on what you've done and what you've got. The next thing we'll talk about is just let's think about the preschool experience, the early years foundation stage, and what's in it, and you know, what our children may or may not be getting from being at home with us. So we're all worried about what our children are missing out on, and that is a fair worry. But of course, that kind of worry doesn't actually help us to, you know, change the situation. So instead, try and focus on what you can do with your children and how you can help them to achieve. And I'm going to go through the 3 primary areas of the EYFS and just talk about a couple of simple things you can do under each heading. I would also say, before I go on to this, otherwise I'll forget to mention it, think about your child's strengths. We all worry about what our children aren't so good at, and which is perfectly natural, but try not to compare them to other children and their abilities, because everyone is unique and we all have our own strengths and weaknesses. So as an example, I'm sure my sister won't mind me telling you about when her son, who's now 15, was a little boy, and they went to play in someone else's house, and they turned up, and you know, her son said, "Oh, look at the Christmas tree, look at the sparkling star." Anyway, they got on with their play, and my sister was thoroughly disheartened to see that her friend's little boy just took apart and put together puzzles so easily and just loved doing it. And she went home and tried to make her son do exactly the same, to discover he wasn't at all interested or bothered or didn't care about puzzles going together. And my sister was worried about, oh my goodness, he's falling behind when so-and-so can do it so easily at the same age. Of course, the other mum was worried about her child's vocabulary. Oh my goodness. Little Eddie came in and said, "Look at the sparkling star," and described my Christmas tree. I feel absolutely hopeless about my child's language ability. Well, needless to say, both are fine. So try not to focus on weaknesses, but remember your child has strengths as well. So don't worry about too much on what they're missing out on. Think what you can do. Do remember they have strengths and we can work on weaknesses. So I would also say, I have a bad habit of saying so. I am aware of that. I'm trying not to do it. One of the problems of 21st century parenting is we think our children have to be occupied brilliantly by us at every moment of the day, and that isn't so, and I don't think it's really good for them. So do allow for them time when they can play by themselves and perhaps are bored. That's just, it allows them time to wonder, time to start getting their imagination going, time to discover things by themselves. If you've shown them how to observe ants when they're playing by themselves for 5 to 10 minutes in the garden, you might be on the edge of the garden, you might be looking through the window, up to you, and you know your child. They might start noticing the ants in the garden that they've never noticed before. Share ways to occupy them, which you might want to show them how to look at cloud shapes in the sky on a lovely day. You might want to make a regular time when they just are amusing themselves for a short time every day. So that's not EYFS. I just found that extra page of notes. Let's look at the EYFS now. First thing I would say, the early years foundation stage, which is the first curriculum your child has or is assessed against and is educated through, goes on to the end of reception year. So if your child is a preschooler, not in full-time school yet, they still have until the end of that first year of schooling to meet their target. So don't think that before they go into reception, they have to have achieved everything they're ever going to achieve in the early years stage. That's not correct. So relax. Secondly, there are 3 prime areas of the curriculum that are more important than all the others. And these 3 areas are the ones on which all the others are built. I'm going to tell you what they are, and I'm going to tell you a couple of ways to help you to help your child to engage in these 3 main areas. You may be surprised, they may not be what you're expecting. First main area is physical skills. So physical skills in the early years curriculum kind of falls into 3 areas. One is gross motor skills, so being able to use your body for climbing, cycling, all these sort of big motor skills, not the fine stuff like writing, but the big muscles. Balancing is a gross motor skill. I'm sure that when your children are playing, when they're walking along the wall, holding your hand in the street, all these different things, you are building these gross motor skills. So you can help children to create an obstacle course, to go over and under, to slither and to crawl and to climb and to hop, to skip, to pedal their bikes. All these things are great gross motor skills that just help their coordination for when they get to school. So do make time for all these things every day, different ways of moving and propelling themselves. It is gross motor. Secondly, is fine motor. This is what we often focus on because we think writing is a key skill. It is for the future, but we don't have to make them sit down and use and hold a pencil all the time to develop fine motor. It's anything that makes them do this, is building the finger muscles, which is what they need to do for fine motor. Digging in the soil, looking for worms, develops their writing skills. Building and twisting their construction kits, putting things together precisely. Water play, sand play, all kinds of things, helping you to chop up soft fruit with a not a sharp knife, a table knife. What am I trying to say? A bread and butter knife. Anything like that will help them to build up their fine motor skills. And thirdly, for physical skills, the third area is becoming independent, being good at self-care. So this includes being able to use the toilet or the potty. And if they're getting to school age, bottom wiping is a really good skill for them to use, to know how to use. Being able to wash and dry their hands, particularly using a paper towel to get the backs of their hands dry and the front of their hands dry. So practice things like drying your hands, washing your hands. They will have to at school be able to put on their own PE kit. So being able to start dressing themselves, putting on socks and shoes by themselves, putting things on over their heads and taking them off, pulling up and down their own trousers for toilet time, being able to hang up a coat by themselves. These are key skills, more important than being able to write your name when you go into reception. So focus on that. So 3 good areas and things you can do. The second key area of the early years curriculum is communication and language. So lots of things you can do for this. Songs and stories are really good finding good, fun language to use when they're doing things, when you're touching different textures. Describe it. What does that feel like to you? And describe what your child is doing when they're playing. We often want to tell them how to play. Oh, don't do it like this. Let me show you how. Try not to do that. Try and let them find their own ways to explore toys and activities and the environment. And describe what they are doing. Oh, you're looking carefully at that. Do you think you can find the zip on the other side? Try pulling it, or all kinds of things. Turn it round a little bit more. Give an instruction. Turn it round a little bit more, and you're trying really hard. Push a little bit harder. I can see what you're doing. That's brilliant. So describe, suggest, and so on. Oh, we're having trouble playing this video. I think we might have been bonged out again. Oh, I can see that we're still going. I'm going to keep going because I can see the time count is still going, but I've lost myself visually, but I'm going to keep going. Yeah, so lots of things you can do with developing language and communication. Following cues when they're playing. So in role playing, I'm the doctor and you're the patient. Get them, say, I'll lie down. What are you going to get them to sort of follow each other's cues, or your cue and you follow their cue, so that you're communicating together and you can develop that communication between you. Also, using different toys to improvise something in a game. Oh, this can be our picnic. Let's fill it up, and you might be using the bricks to be your cakes. But improvising is a good way of communicating. And the third thing in so I've completely lost myself because I've lost the picture. The third aspect that is a key area of the early years foundation stage is emotional and social well-being. You can't, if you don't have good well-being, then you do not kind of engage with your surroundings very well. So you think, well, my child can't meet friends, but you can do things like play games with them. You can take turns. That's really important. You can imagine together. So I've sort of blended my two things together. So following cues and improvising are really key things in emotional and social well-being and development. So focus on what you can do to build up how they interact with others and how they will in the future. More importantly than these three things in the early years curriculum, I would say, is the characteristics of effective learning. Now, what are they? Because they're not things that our children are they're not given a sort of a developmental mark, if you like, in these, but this underlies their approach to learning for their whole life. So characteristics of effective learning are things like a can-do attitude, a positive attitude to learning, being curious, developing critical thinking skills. I'll just touch on that in a minute. Using their senses to explore the world around them, finding solutions to problems. So I might want to make a bridge to go over my toy railway set, and I don't have a bridge. So how am I going to overcome that problem? I might make it out of boxes or something. being able to focus for a long time and being absorbed by an activity. All these are characteristics of effective learning. They are our children's approach to life and learning that, that underpins everything that they do because it's their approach to it. How can I build up my children's characteristics of effective learning? Well, I would say, again, it's that asking a question you don't know the answer to, creating a hypothesis. What do you think will happen if? And then let's see if you're right or I'm right, or we're both right or neither are right, and do that thing and then find out. You might find you can't quite do it. You might have to find a way of overcoming your, because your design of building a castle of cushions doesn't work. So we might have to start with the coffee table and incorporate that into our design, etc. So testing ideas and finding out. So do think about what is my child's attitude to all the activities they do, and that's more important. So we were talking about what are their weaknesses. If they have a good approach to learning and a good attitude to learning, and you've developed curiosity and a desire to discover and an enjoyment of learning, then they're going to be able to work on those weaknesses. So developing that attitude and that enjoyment and that pleasure in discovering the world and having fun doing it is going to pay dividends when they do get to school. So just finally, the importance of play. The importance of play is absolutely key. Our children discover the world by playing. And as adults, we quite often want them to play right. We want them to know how to engage with their toys. And that's probably not the best thing. We don't need to show our children, for the most part, how to play with a toy. They'll find their own ways, creative ways, ways that we've never thought about because we're so bound by the right way to play with something. So let them explore their toys their own way. And when they're playing, when you're playing with them, I would say you need to join them in their world. Most of the time, we expect the children to join us in our world. Come and sit at the table. It's dinner time. Come on, it's time to tidy up. Let's go and run the bath. But when we're playing, it's the opposite. It's our turn to join their world. So we need to remember that when we're playing. We need to not tell them what to do or how to do in a game, but let them tell us. Most of the world, our children are not in charge of, but they are in charge of their play. It's how they make sense of the world. So we need to allow them that. It's how they work through their emotions, work through what they don't understand or what they're discovering, and help to put things in their place in their minds. So if they're playing with something, say, oh, you're playing with Thomas and James. Thomas is going along the track really fast. You might want to say, what can I do? Can I join in? And then they'll say, yes, you can do such and such. Yeah, you can make James come and meet Thomas. So then don't take over the game. Say, what is James going to say when he gets to Thomas? Oh, I can see that Thomas is, I don't know, whatever, doing whatever. And that triggers their imagination. It triggers their language. It triggers their ability to explore further in play. So always let them lead, comment and ask questions, and do not take over. You might want